You're listening to Unfiltered, real talk about sex and love with Ashley
and Heather. And today we're going to be talking about why support groups are essential in betrayal healing. And we get a lot of questions from our listeners, which we love hearing little bits of your story, and it really is encouraging to us. And so we just really want to take a minute to thank our audience, because we wouldn't be doing this if you guys weren't sending us your questions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's awesome.
We really love them. And we both outside of the podcast have very, very full-time jobs at Pure Desire, doing things, creating content, helping people start groups. And there'll be times where I'll start responding to some of the questions, and Heather's like, I thought we were going to wait to respond to them. There's so many that come in, and every once in a while we're just like, okay, we have to respond to this one because we see a need, and and we feel like it can't wait. And, you know, it's just like we really see you and hear you and care about you, and just wish that, you know, we could have an hour with each person to just point them in the right direction. But we're at least thankful to be able to get these questions out as fast as we're able to on a podcast, even though sometimes it can take a few months, but it's still much quicker than writing a whole new resource or creating a new book. So thank you, and keep sending them. So our first question is, I'm close to completing the Betrayal Beyond group, but it doesn't seem like our group will continue to interact much after the group ends. I'm only 6 months into this journey and still feel like I need support of a group, especially since no one in my real life knows about this issue. If the recovery process is 3 to 5 years, what do y'all recommend for continued connection after Betrayal Beyond? Are there effective ways to get our current group to keep connecting? And how can I keep building the support I need in my recovery beyond individual therapy, which I already do? So this is a really great question. And I feel like, thank you for sending a question that helps us pause and just talk about this whole 3 to 5 year process. And so whether you're recovering from sexual addiction or compulsive sexual behaviors, or you're healing from betrayal, they're both a 3 to 5 year process. Hopefully, you know, you can go in a little bit, Heather, on just like the brain structure actually renews. And so, yes, your Betrayal Beyond group is anywhere between 8 and 10 months. What I normally like to recommend is that a woman would go through Betrayal Beyond a second time, because the first time you come in, you're probably very highly traumatized. Same with on the struggler side, whether you're a struggling female or male. When you first come in, you're in crisis. You're in trauma. You're in crisis on either side of the coin, and you're starting to kind of understand what's going on and connect the dots. And so a lot of times when we have men or women go through group the second time, they're like, I can't even believe I wrote that in the first month, because they now have this really great sense of what the addiction has done to hijack the brain, or how betrayal trauma has impacted them. They've been able to connect dots all through this 8 to 10 month process. And so the second time they're going through, it's like they're going to be able to answer the questions right away, and maybe even on a deeper level, even more thoroughly, like, okay, what are the rituals, or how am I seeking safety, or whatever the questions may be, depending on the group. Because when I first started Betrayal Beyond, I could not answer the questions because John's addiction had been completely hidden from me for 4 years. And so I didn't have the understanding yet of what gaslighting was, what emotional withdrawal was, what stonewalling was, what blame shifting was. I didn't know all of that. And so when it said, how do you see your husband's behaviors, blah, 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 I'm like, I have no idea. I just found out he was looking at porn yesterday. You know, like, I didn't know. And so I actually started my Betrayal and Beyond group answers according to his video game addiction, because I could see that. And so I was like, well, I can see the patterns with the video game addiction, so I'm going to use that as my foundation for answers. But then the second time I went through, because I had learned so much, I had connected my thoughts and feelings. I'd learned a lot about the addict, and I've had more conversations with John. I've heard more stories in group where I'm like, yeah, my husband does that. I didn't realize that's what that was. So the second time I was like, yep, I know exactly how to answer all these questions. And so go through it a second time. If you've made enough progress in your own healing the first time through, you can absolutely go through the second time as a co-leader, because that even can pull you up. Year 2, we can be like, I'm tired of doing this. But sometimes when we show up and we see those women coming in the same position you were in last year, and they're just devastated, and you've made a few steps forward, you're able to then encourage them. And it's really good to pay that healing forward while you're still doing that second layer of digging. And then after that, I would say, you know, for the woman who just wants to do an individual deep dive. There's the Genesis process where you can do more work into your own family, your own habits, your own behaviors. If you have a past or even currently struggle with fantasy or your own love issues or sexual issues, pornography issues, maybe past bad relationships, then Unraveled would be the perfect group to go in next, because then you're going to focus on your own things. And then past that, I mean, there's work you can do together with your spouse, whether it's a connected group or using one of Carol Jurgensen Sheets' books of Help Them Heal, that you can then do that with your spouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there really is a lot for people to do after, but it is her question too with, can our same group keep going? And there might be a potential for that, but sometimes we even encourage women that if you know that you could be, that it would benefit you to go through something again, it doesn't have to be with 6 or 7 other women. It could just be like a couple of your close friends where you say, you know what, I would really like to, go through Unraveled with just a couple girlfriends and see what kind of healing I could benefit from that. And Unraveled, even though it does really focus on managing love, sex, and relationships, there's so much other good content in that is all about self-care and identifying your thoughts and feelings and even finding your voice and communication. And there's so much more that's in there that would be really helpful. And so sometimes it might be a little scary to think, okay, I just went through this group that was really life-changing in a certain way, and it seems scary to venture out to do something different, but it might be a really great opportunity to explore something new and go a little bit deeper in your healing.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, if you're recognizing you could benefit from Unraveled and maybe another woman is like, no, I don't connect at all, that's where it can be a little challenging to have the same group go through a material the second time. But what you could do is like you said, you can take take whatever you want to do next and just bring a few friends. You can go talk with your pastor or the church staff and say, I want to lead a group for women here, and you can bring it back to your church if you're in one of our online groups. Another thing you can do is if there's a few women in the group, I like at the end of groups to talk about what everybody's planning to do next. And if there's like 3 of you who are saying, I want to go through Betrayal and Beyond again, or I want to lead, or I want to go and Unraveled, then you can plan on doing that together. So you can plan on signing up for the same Unraveled group together with a couple of your group, members, or you can pair up with one and say, hey, let's co-lead the next one, and you two can co-lead one. So it might not be the whole group, but it could be 1 or 2 individuals out of the group.
Yeah, that's so good.
Our next question. My husband and I interact with other couples who've been through Betrayal and Beyond, Conquer series, 7 pillars, marriage counseling, etc. What can I say to the betrayed wives who don't want to let go of anger, or they don't want to forgive their husband? Most husbands are actively trying to stay sober, but the wives feel like they are entitled to stay bitter. My healing journey is a success because my husband's recovery is a success. My husband says his recovery is a success because my healing is a success. That is a tongue twister. How do I share this with wives with sensitivity but not come off as holier than thou? This is a really, there's a couple elements of this question that I'm happy to be able to address, because even as somebody who teaches this, my husband and I had several relapses we had to navigate. And so I think it's first important to remember that we want to do our best to equip wives to be prepared for anything, and to be healthy and know what they need and be able to take care of themselves and their families, regardless of what their husband does, because we can't control anybody else. And so if these wives have husbands who are not being successful, we don't want to put any shame on them for that. At the same time, we do see that when couples are both actively engaged in group and working together and actually doing all the work, that they are more successful and they do better. But what I would say is, if they're still struggling with anger or struggling to forgive and they've already been through Betrayal and Beyond, I don't know that there's anything that you could directly say to them that would make that better. I would say asking questions would be a good starting place of, so if I have a friend who's just very angry, which I do have friends who are very angry at their husbands for something or some kind of relapse. And so my questions are always, what do you need? Because I'm not going to, the anger and the the lack of forgiveness, like those are byproducts of something else going on. And so I'm not going to be able to just say, don't be angry. I was told that early on and told to forgive and deal with my anger. And I couldn't just make that go away. There was no like magic wand to be like, okay, anger, go away. I really needed somebody to help me piece by piece walk through the steps of what I needed. And then eventually, as I put those things in place, my anger did go away and forgiveness did come. And so as a friend, I would say, what is it you need right now in the moment? What do you need to feel safe? Or what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you're angry about? Because maybe she's angry that he relapsed again and it made her feel unwanted or unnecessary or betrayed, then that's a valid reason to feel angry. So my next question would be like, what do you need? What do you need then to move forward? What do you need to feel safe? What do you need to start working toward reconciliation? What do you need from him? What do you need to put in place? And then helping her just start taking an action step, or what's on your safety action plan? You know, if we have women come to group over and over and their husbands have relapsed and they're very angry because they're in the same cycle again, then my job as a leader wouldn't be to talk them out of being angry. It would be to say, that makes sense that you're angry and it's terrible that this is happening. So what are you going to do now to take care of yourself? What's on your safety action plan? And point her back to making an action step of some kind.
I know we hear a lot from women that it is one of the most difficult things is when women are being told to forgive their husbands, but they don't have the full story. They haven't gone through full disclosure, and maybe they've had a disclosure, but the continued relapses make the partner feel like there's still something under there. There's still something going on that I don't have clarity around, that I don't have all of the information that I need in order to forgive. And I think that that is one of the things that can be really challenging with these kind of situations, because I know that I would be reluctant to just freely give forgiveness if I don't know exactly what I'm forgiving, which seems like a realistic expectation. And so I think that it is really making sure that there's a lot of sensitivity and compassion and really even trust, because the last thing, if you work with women who are betrayed partners, if this person is saying, I work with couples and I work with betrayed partners, you want them to look at you as a safe and trusted ally. And so I think that there has to be a really good balance between maintaining that trust and that safety, but then also how can you encourage them to be looking at, you know, other things that might be contributing to their angerness or bitterness or lack of forgiveness. Yeah,
because there's probably an area where they're feeling stuck or like they don't have options or you know, frustrated. And so getting to that, like, where are we feeling, where is this coming from, and what do we need to do for that? Because it's not even just sexual betrayal. There's all kinds of marriage dysfunction, like if you have a husband that's emotionally withdrawn. And you know, I've got a friend whose husband has Asperger's and he's not giving her what she needs emotionally. And so instead of staying stuck or saying you need to just get over the anger or forgive him or whatnot, it's like, okay, well then if this is the reality of your situation, then what do you need? Yeah. What do you need to help if this is going to be a reality and we can't make him change?
Yeah.
I think that's a better way to approach it.
Yeah. So our third question says, how do I help the women in my group who are already divorced? Do you have much in the way of resources for them? We don't have anything that is specifically for women who have gone through divorce. We do talk about it in Betrayal and Beyond. We also talk about it in Unraveled, because it is just a realistic part of what a lot of us experience in this world. And so I think that there are other programs like divorce care that could be really helpful, because that usually is the whole group is women who have all been divorced. I know we get this question a lot with groups from women who they're already divorced and they're in a Betrayal and Beyond group with a lot of other women who are still in their marriage, which can be really, I think, hard for women who've already experienced divorce. There's just so much that goes into being in that position. And then the other thing would be that if they've already been through a Betrayal and Beyond group, that maybe they would want to offer that to just women who have been through divorce, because I think that there might be a different level of healing that would come from that. And also when we share our stories with other people and they can step into our story with us in a way that is entirely relatable, I think that that is really helpful. I know that that's been one of the things that in our relationship that connect us is that we both went through divorce, and it's hard and it's tough, and it's, I don't know, even 20 years later, it still rears its ugly face sometimes. And so I just think that having somebody who can resonate with that is so helpful.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's just little things that are very specific. And I like that you encourage this woman to say, hey, if you've been through this, maybe offer it then. Because a lot of times we are the ones to start something when there's a need. And it is hard. All these little, we do say at the core of it, we're all dealing with pain or trauma, but there are little things like the Betrayal and Beyond groups that I've run for moms with little kids. When I was a mom with little kids, that felt different to me than running the group for betrayed spouses where it's a bunch of retired women, because there's different elements like coming at you while you're dealing with all this. So if you're able to offer it, that would be really great. And then I would say, as you're going through the material, I say, please do it if you've already been divorced. Just answer the questions according to when you were in the marriage. So kind of it's painful, but put yourself back in that marriage and answer the questions according to when they were happening. But we do recommend that you still go through it, even if you're divorced. And then like Heather said, I had a woman call and I recommended the divorce care. And I said, she needed a lot of support. And I said, do both. Go to your divorce care group once a week and focus solely on the processing the pain of divorce. And then go to your Betrayal and Beyond and focus solely on processing the pain of all of the betrayals that took place during your marriage. And so you might have to do something like that. At one point I had to do my Betrayal and Beyond groups, and I had to do a step parenting class because I had my own unique set of things I needed to deal with the blended family issues. And even just the other day, John was saying, I'm so thankful we did that class because it's unique to what we were experiencing. And we needed other couples to come alongside us to say, we've been there, this is normal. These are the things we've tried. So find people who are in similar situations. Yes, do your Betrayal and Beyond, but if you have something that's unique, like you're a pastor's wife, you're divorced, you're a blended family, there are so many. You can probably type in Christian support groups for any of those things and find that. And so, or you're same-sex attracted and you're in Unraveled. Do Unraveled to get to the roots of what you're dealing with as a woman who struggles, but then also be in a drop-in group. And so, or another group that's more specific, and that's okay. I mean, I needed my blended family group and it was great.
So I know that when I went through my Betrayal and Beyond group the first time, it wasn't for my current marriage. It was for my previous marriage. But I'd already been divorced for several years, remarried for several years. And so, but I just think that there's so much more that goes into that. And especially when there's this grieving process that goes with divorce. I can't even explain it in the best way, but I wanted the divorce. I knew it was for my safety. I knew it was for the safety of my kids. And yet there was a piece of it that I was grieving. And so it just, sometimes it doesn't even make sense going in, but yet there's so much healing and so much benefit that can come from it. And again, being in a group that has the support of other people who are, on a similar healing journey is just so powerful.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So find yourself people, find a group, find connection, so that you can feel like you're with other people who get it. That's the biggest thing that we need when we're in this place of maybe feeling shame or disappointment or loss or grief, that we need to have others who've been there say, it's okay, I've been there and it gets better, I promise.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for joining the show today. And remember, we're listener driven. So please send your questions to unfiltered@puredesire.org. And if you like this episode or found it helpful, share it with a friend.